Welcome to the Sacred Dance Summit. I'm your host, Leslie Zehr, the author of The Alchemy of Dance, Sacred Dance as a Path to the Universal Dancer. My guest today is Suzanne Caesar. Suzanne inherently aims for beauty and movement, and her artistic mission is to inspire and connect us to who we are through dance. Her goal as a choreographer is to stimulate the audience on both intellectual and visceral levels for an aesthetic experience, complemented and enriched by costume and other modes of visualization. As a performing artist, choreographer, and dance educator, she has experienced how dance is empowering and transformative. From breath awareness to guided imagery to creative dance movement, Suzanne empowers her audiences to bond through a sharing experience of reawakening to themselves, their bodies, their wisdom, and their authentic power. After dancing her way through 2 pregnancies, Suzanne was inspired to create Maternal Dance. Her prenatal dance program grew into Rhythm for Life, where she produced and choreographed the Prenatal Belly Dance Workout DVD, which was endorsed by the March of Dimes. Suzanne's programs have been featured on the Discovery Health Channel, New York One News, FoxNews.com, Self, Pilates Style Magazine, The Bump, Bella Magazine, and more. After years of researching and working with women, she came to understand how dance can be such an integral part of women's lives. Suzanne's own dance practice was the vehicle to her awakening as a woman, and what led to the inspiration for an original dance play, the HERA Odyssey, a mythical and mystical creation of eternal love, truth, and beauty. Welcome, Suzanne. Welcome to the summit. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Suzanne is speaking to us from New York City today, and I'm speaking to you from Cairo, so that's why I'm sitting in the dark. We're 7 hours away from each other. Okay, well, let's just jump right in. Suzanne, why don't you tell us a little bit about your dance journey? How it all began for you?
Well, it's such a big question, really. Well, it really did begin as a toddler. When I was 3 years old, I remember having such a distinct experience dancing at a family gathering. And I remember the feeling I had in my body. It was electric. And going home that night, I was sitting in the back seat of the car, no car seats at that time. And I remember feeling, this was so fun. I want to do it again. And I just loved that feeling. A few years later, I enrolled in ballet, my first ballet class. And I don't know, it really I just snowballed into Irish dance and jazz dance and then modern dance and performance art and tap and this and that. My journey has gone from, that experience at 3 years old and continuing to learn and seek out new dance. It wasn't until a few years ago that I remembered that experience when I was 3 years old. So all the while, taking dance classes and loving to perform and learning and seeing which technique felt great to me, which, I'd kind of put to the side, and all the while incorporating everything I've learned. I did stop and think, why is dance so important to me? Because I really did not make it something important in my life until, or at least I did not follow this passion seriously until later in my life. So while most dancers who, have a dance career start early on and can, they really train hard early on and perform, in their 20s, by their 30s, they're kind of winding down, although these days things have changed. But I did not start really blooming in my dance career or as a dancer, I don't know, until like my late 40s and now 50s. It's crazy. It's really crazy. But I've been teaching dance for a very long time. So I just followed my gut. I just kept following my passion, following my love of dance. And then when I finally have gotten into this place of, this is really it for me, I am so happy with what I'm doing and sharing dance with people through classes, workshops, my choreography, performances. That's when I stopped and thought, why am I still doing this? Because people have asked me, why are you so passionate about dance? And I had to stop
You're
and think,
just
why is
beginning.
that? Yes, I'm just beginning.
But you mentioned that you had a profound shift when you became pregnant.
Yes, I did. Prior to becoming pregnant, my first pregnancy was in my early 30s. And prior to that, I think I'd consider myself, I was a real thinker. I wasn't connected to my heart. I was very much in my masculine. I had my to-do list. I worked my way down my list, and I accomplished things just by going down my list. And I was probably like a type A kind of person. It really wasn't until my first pregnancy that just naturally I had to start, slowing down a bit. And maternal dance became something that I created because at that time there were no dance classes for pregnant women. It was just not happening. It was unheard of basically at that time. And so I formed Maternal Dance so I can dance while I was pregnant and share this with other pregnant women. If it wasn't for Maternal Dance, I would not have even met you. So weird how things happen. But through that journey and working with women, and then working with women beyond pregnancy, and ancient Egyptian sacred dance, and all of these things that came after maternal dance, it was just kind of this journey that I was kind of, I think I was drawn into this journey because of my passion for dance. Well, I know I was, but I look back and I think, wow, it's amazing how I've really learned, and I've blossomed as a woman because I became connected to my heart. I stopped thinking so much about, with my head and going with what I thought was right. And I began opening up and going with what I felt was right. And I think that journey, I know that journey has opened me up. I've blossomed as a woman, as a dancer, as a choreographer. And it also changed the quality of my movement and what I'm putting out there. So
well, let's talk about embodiment for a moment, because it sounds like that's what happened when you got pregnant, is you discovered your body. And I think that happens often when you begin to share your body with another living being. But you had also mentioned to me that you struggled with your body, that struggled with your body image, and that seemed to change once during pregnancy.
Well, it's funny because I never felt comfortable. Who feels comfortable about talking with their body, about their body, when they see and feel flaws within themselves? It was in my first ballet class that I became aware that I had big hips. And I just did not look like the other ballerinas, the little ballerinas. It was hard for me, and I hid it. I hid it very well. I think I hid it very well. And I think that affected me, with my dance career early on. I stopped myself from going on certain auditions because I felt like I didn't fit in. I wasn't good enough. And not good enough with my talent, but not good enough with my body. And I also felt that if I said it out loud to anybody, if I said, oh, I have, my hips are too big, I felt like that would be betraying me as a dancer. So how, it was like I was having this battle within myself. I am a dancer. I feel like a dancer, but yet I can't go and be a dancer because my hips are too big. That was such a battle I was having for so long. By the time I got pregnant, it was like I had an excuse to have big hips. You know, my belly. And it's
now
funny
you
because,
wanted big hips.
yeah, now it didn't matter to me. So that's when I finally felt comfortable in this body with these hips. And I was dancing because I became pregnant with my first child while I was working on my master's in dance. I went back to school later. I went back to school for my master's in my 30s. So that's when things started to click. And that's why, you know, it all, you know, opening up with my heart, really feeling into my body for the first time. And it's still, even to this day, I have a hard time accepting my body. It's a constant, you know, reassuring myself and loving myself and honoring my hips and honoring this vehicle, this, you know, encasement of the spirit that I have that loves to dance.
But I think we're all socialized. I mean, unfortunately, this is one of the big problems, is that we're all socialized in that way to be
Yes.
so mental and in our head, and what do we look like? And I think that personally, that's one of the blessings of dance, is that it does bring us back to our bodies, and that we can begin to feel and to reconnect.
Well, yes. And the thing is, growing up and while I was performing and then, you know, having kids, and when people found out that I was a dancer, you know, choreographer, or I taught dance, every once in a while somebody would come along, and for whatever their reason was, they would have to let me know that, oh, you know, you've got big hips, you know, you don't fit the dancer mold, you know, and it bothered me. And in the earlier days, it not only bothered me, it affected me, and affected me to be the dancer and performer that I could have been back then. But then again, this is the journey that I had to go on.
Exactly.
And I think the quality of my movement has changed, not because of all of the dance techniques and teachers that have informed me and helped shape me. I think also becoming more comfortable in my body has helped the quality of movement. But yes, society plays a huge role in, you know, how we see ourselves and body image. I mean, I never felt comfortable being a ballerina. And, but of course that's the foundation of dance. If you're going to be a dancer, choreographer, and make it somehow in this world, in this business, ballet is the foundation. It's a really good foundation. It's good to know, you know, it's important to know, but I never felt graceful performing as a ballerina. But ballerinas in general do have to have a certain body type. I'm not saying they can't have big hips, but they do have to be on the lighter side. But you know, ballerinas need to be lifted, and you know, things like that. There are technical reasons, yes. Yeah. But I never was looking to be a ballerina, you know. So you know, there's a lot of mind games. But when it comes to body image, it really played a game. You know, I played a game with myself. It really hurt me in a lot of ways. And like I said, I had a hard time talking about it. I'm only really just talking about it now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it takes time to process that too. Mm-hmm. And to get in, once you're into your body and you begin to have that inner journey, because we are, and I think ballet is very external. It's very much about what everything looks like, which is fine. I love ballet, but
it's a certain aesthetic,
inner journey. And I think that once you connect to that inner journey and get into your body and can really begin to feel it and to feel yourself and to find yourself in there, that's a whole different experience. And probably the reason you never fit in the ballet world was because that wasn't your dance. I
Right.
think we all have our form
Right.
of, I was the same. I studied ballet and tap and jazz and everything, and same
Mm-hmm.
thing, big hips.
Mm-hmm.
But when I
Mm-hmm.
found Oriental dance, then it was,
Mm-hmm.
then I understood why
Yeah.
big hips are a really good thing. So that changed everything. But
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, about how embodiment, I mean, your process of really connecting to your emotions as well. You said that was
Yes.
through your body.
Yeah. Well, as I was going along this journey, being a new mom, and then working with maternal dance, I started to see how maternal dance was helping these pregnant women, not just with their bodies in pregnancy, but going through this emotional journey that they were going on, these 9-10 months of being pregnant, their bodies changing. And I started to see the transformative value of dance at that. It started to happen at that time. And while I was watching them and working with them, I don't know, I started to feel things in my own body and started to ask my own body, how do you feel? And starting to connect to my emotional body, because we hold emotions in our body. So all of those years of not liking my hips and being angry at the fact that I had big hips, and the anger was being held in my body. I was able to, I guess, process and release some of this, release it as the years were going by watching other women in their transformative stage. Does that make sense to
Mm-hmm.
you? So
It makes perfect sense to me.
yeah, and then like even while I was building maternal dance, then my own children were growing, and I was asked by their musical director at their school, would I choreograph the school shows? So I said sure. And it was truly amazing to watch the kids go through transformations as as they were learning dances, um, and embodying movement in ways that they didn't even know they had it in them. Um, so the embodiment part of this is, as I grew as a dancer, choreographer, as a person, as a mother, as a woman, I also began to learn that there is a spirit inside of this body. And in order for me to help this spirit be expressed, I need to embrace this body in a way to help this spirit be expressed. And that's where sacred dance comes into play for me, because it's not so much of a religious thing. There's liturgical dance, and that's sacred in its own way. But for me, sacred dance is something I learned from you, actually. It's the intention. It's an intention of how we are, what we're bringing to this dance. What's the intention here? And for me, the intention began the expression that I can share with this body, or just even for myself on a Saturday night dancing. What comes out? What happens when I'm moving in a certain way? And it wasn't even so much like moving limbs anymore. It was like this feeling coming out of me that I would just, express. And these are the ways that help me move those emotions and those blocks that I was holding inside and not being able to be who I really am. I was not sharing who I was, even to myself, until I learned, going through this journey. So it has to come back to, we all have to come back to ourselves, into our bodies, feel what's going on with our bodies. I mean, I don't know if I shared this with you, but I literally one day was sitting on my couch, on my computer, and I was not feeling good. Not physically, mentally. I just feeling not so good. And I said to myself, what's the problem? I don't even know what my problem is. And then I just put my computer to the side, and this is, you know, being aware that something is in my body that I need to, you know, figure out. And all I did was ask my body, how are you feeling today? And I just burst out crying. And I'm thinking, what is this? So I cried, I let it out. And then I sat there and I felt so much better. It wasn't even anything that I needed to think about or know about or understand. It was just a release.
To be acknowledged, maybe.
To be exactly acknowledgement. And these are the little things that have happened to me along the way, or that I've experienced along the way, that I'm like, oh my goodness, my body holds so much, you know, and it's peeling away those layers. It's peeling away, you know, emotions that are being held, and the acknowledgement that we need to pay attention to our bodies, because our spirit lives there.
And I think, to me, that's what sacred dance is. Like, that's the way the spirit expresses itself. And I think it's very different from traditional dance. Like, let's just use the ballet example, because in ballet, you really are trying to hold yourself. I think with ballet and a lot of sports, often it's painful. You know, ballet can be very painful, wearing toe shoes and all this kind of stuff. So I think that you were taught to kind of shut down the body or the emotions or whatever feelings we're feeling, because we're trying to push beyond some kind of envelope, where to me the sacred dance is the other. It's allowing whatever is in there to move out without stopping anything, just letting it flow.
Right. What I call that is transcending technique. Because, you know, just as an example with ballet or even a good jazz dancer, you want to get the leg kicked up to here, and, you know, it's about moving, you know, basically moving limbs, and, you know, how far can you stretch, and how far can you kick, and how high can you kick and leap and jump and all that. But we all kind of, as dancers, as trained dancers, I should say, we've got that, but then how do you take it to that level where you're being expressive of who you really are? And how do you know who you really are if you're doing somebody else's technique or choreography, or, you know? And this is how it really did come to a point for me while working with the kids as well, because I was doing maternal dance and also working with the kids. It's like, but they were learning dances, and like, I would bring the choreography to them. They would learn the choreography. Some, you know, there were some modifications and things, but then they would take it to another level. And it was like, then they would bring me up to another level, and was like, you know, they kept meeting me at my level, and I would bring it up, and then they would come to my level and then bring it up. And it was just amazing how, without training, without the technique, they were just naturally, you know, giving something that I didn't really, you know, expect. I wasn't like looking for that. And then there it was. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that. Look what this person could do, you know? And,
yes, kids
and I
are
could
just
see
there to have fun.
And I could see the joy in their faces, you know? And, you know, this is a unique experience for me, because I remember a substitute teacher coming to one of the performances, and she came up to me and she said, you know, I have been to many dance performances. My daughter dances with Alvin, trained with Alvin Ailey. You know, I've seen performances and I've seen how kids react. She said, but you've got something special. She said, there's something that those kids are doing and bringing out, that you can see the joy that they have while they're doing this. And I'm thinking, but don't all kids have joy when they dance, you know? But I
If
kind
they're
of got what
allowed
she was
to.
saying, but
Yeah.
if they're allowed to, yeah. And, you know, even my own daughter, she took ballet for 12 years. And I never wanted to be that dancer mom. I never wanted to come to class, to the showings and, you know, afterwards say, you didn't do this and you got to do this. I laid back from that, thank goodness. And I mean, she's no longer dancing, which sometimes she says, oh, Mom, I wish I didn't stop dancing. And I say, well, you still can go back to it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
You did.
I
You're
did.
setting an example. Yeah.
I did. But, you know, I just see how dance has transformed people, kids. And that's not just the body. That's, you know, that's everything. That's the
The
whole
soul.
person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk
Yeah.
about beauty and dance.
Mm. You know, my first of all, I love looking at beautiful things. I love sitting in nature and looking at the beauty of nature and flowers. And so, and I know a lot of people do, but just talking about my own experience, I was doing a research paper while working on my master's, and it had nothing to do about beauty. But while I was researching, I came upon Plato and his views on beauty. And I even was going to like start quoting, but I said, no, I'm not going to start quoting other people right now. I just want to, you know, have this interview and just let it flow. But that was my first, like, wow, you know, there's something here about beauty that I want to look into a little bit more. And it wasn't until recently, when I say recently, over the past, you know, 10 years or so, that I started to notice the kind of choreography that I'm putting out and thinking and feeling that there's beauty here. And I'm, you know, what am I about really? What do I want to say right now? What's, you know, what do I want to communicate really? And it came down to me right now in this world, it comes down to like what's happening around us. There's so much angst, there's so much stress, there's so much, you know, worry. And I decided that I would like to not go there in my choreography. I really want to bring out beauty. And I'd like to be able to have people in the audience experience beauty, feel beauty, and have it connect to the beauty within them. So it's kind of like, that's my mission right now. And, you know, it's trial and error, but that's where I'm going with beauty. And I like it, you know, I like the feeling. I like that. I'm not sure if other people are, you know, right now, I don't know if that's really, you know, being accepted. You know, I'm like pushing my way in there in a way, because, you know, you see what's coming out in the theaters and, you know, there's horror movies and things. It's like, yeah. Oh, madness. You know, we don't need any more of that. You know, yes, art reflects life reflects art, but we don't have enough.
There's all parts of life. It doesn't have to be just destruction,
right.
and
right.
horror or
right.
fear or whatever. We need to balance it with the other
and
side.
Not that there's only that, but I'm just saying, I just feel like we need a little bit more of beauty in life at this stage.
So how do we move with beauty?
Well, so a few years ago, I took a course called Awakening Shakti, a woman named Lisa Schrader, and I don't know her personally, but I took the course and it was wonderful. And there was one chapter where she talked about beauty, and she posed a question to us in the those of us in the course, and she asked, you know, how would you walk in beauty? How would you move, you know, with the idea of moving with beauty? And that was like, for me, I immediately went, oh, wow. And I literally would walk and see how my movements changed, thinking about how would I walk in beauty, or feeling like I looked beautiful walking. There was a difference. And then I would just, as an experiment, with a few friends having lunch, or, you know, I would just pose that question to them, and it would be like, oh, I could see them change like immediately. And they would go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. And I said to them, because I was doing this myself, I said to them, you know, go through your daily life feeling beautiful. How would you move differently feeling beautiful and moving with beauty? So I really, you know, credit that idea to Lisa Schrader in the Awakening Shakti course. But it's really, for me, it has, it made an impression on me.
It's
And
like invoking the goddess, I suppose, within you.
Yes, that really connected to me deeply. I mean, my Venus is in Pisces, so it's very, I don't know, there's a lot of feeling there. But yeah, I think so. I think it really did invoke the goddess in that way. And so I'm very aware of that. And, you know, even going back to my master's, I took a course, I forget the name of the course there. And one of our assignments was we had to like sit in the park or sit in places and watch people move. And that's something for me, I right away clicked with. So even back then, I watch people, I see their posture, I see how they move, and without judging, you know, and of course, you know, I have to remind myself, you know, this is not about judgment here. This is just about noticing. And it really informed me more about how I'm moving. I had a tendency in my early years to, you know, talk fast, walk fast, do everything fast. And I don't know if it's because I was raised in the Bronx where, you know, you just talk fast and you did things fast, or I was the oldest of 9 kids. And, you know, if you didn't grab something for dinner while it was passing you, it would pass you by and you wouldn't get it again. So you quickly, you know, took what you can get. But I had to make a conscious effort to slow down. And when you think about it, when you ask yourself, how would you move in beauty or with beauty? There is a slowing down. There is like a
reverence.
Yeah, I was going to say a grace that comes through, that you connect with. And that's a practice, I think. It's a practice.
Yeah.
So, but these things have informed my dance now. I'm working on a piece right now called Priestess Powwow. And that piece is not a flowing, you know, graceful piece in that way. It's a very strong piece. The priestesses enter in a ceremonious way, you know, with reverence, and, you know, in a priestly fashion, or a priestessly fashion. But then they really go into this, you know, tribal, you know, it's kind of a jazz tribal fusion dance. And I'm not saying it's, you know, there's beauty there, but there's beauty there, and it's fast, but I'm trying to bring the beauty out in that as well. But putting that aside, I think for people to start asking themselves, you know, how do I move? You know, how do I want to be? It does take a slowing down, I think.
And I suppose it's your intention as well. I mean, it's,
yes.
You know, if you say, how do I move with beauty, then your intention is to invoke that or bring that across. And I'm sure that hits a piece of something inside of you and allows it to
yeah. And I think that's sacred. I think that's sacred too, because it's an honoring. You know, I noticed when I you know, I really have slowed down a lot. And when I get really excited, I start talking really fast again. You know, I have to like kind of slow down and, you know, breathe and feel myself in my body. It's a real thing for me. You know, some people it comes easier. For me, it didn't come so easy. I don't know if it's because I was so body self-conscious, way back, in my early life, but it really has been a practice for me that I'm still practicing. I'm not there yet, and maybe I'll never be there yet, but it's just this journey of noticing, like, wow, when I slow down and move this way, it feels nice. It feels beautiful. And that's how I want my life to be. I want to look around and see beauty. I want to feel beauty. And when the ugly comes up, then we deal with it. And hopefully by noticing beauty inside and out, that when the ugly does show up, we can handle it with more grace, move through it a little bit more gently and easily.
Yeah. I suppose that's mindfulness, just being.
It is mindful. It definitely is mindfulness. It's weird to say because it's like mindfulness, but I had to like kind of lose my mind.
It's no mindfulness.
Yes. It's awareness. It's awareness. Yeah.
Presence.
Yeah,
How about
presence. Yeah, presence. And yes, it is presence. And I've always said, like, I really had to dance to be grounded, to get out of my head and into my body, literally, like, because
you're an air sign, so
yeah, I am an air sign. So true. But it's funny because now in my 50s, and I don't really admit that all too much because I like it when people say, "Ooh, you don't look your age."
Yeah.
It's funny how the little girl in me, that playfulness has literally, like, it's come full circle, because there was a whole section in my life when I was this, and I accomplished, but I wasn't, I was like more, I was in my head, getting things done. And people who know me, who didn't know me back then, who know me now, can't even imagine me being like that. Because I've kind of, like, not that I'm an airhead, I'm not an airhead at all, but I'm more airy now.
You've stepped into it. And I think that happens in midlife. And that was going to be my next question, was how has dance shifted for you in midlife? Because I think it really does. And I guess that would be one of them, is that you've acknowledged yourself and maybe embraced, the air part of you, or whatever you want to call that.
Mm-hmm. How dance has shifted for me is really, it's more grounded. When we're younger, we can, leap more and jump more and, skip and hop. And not that I don't do all that now, but I like it when I'm grounded and move my body. Not that I don't go on, releve or tippy toe or do little leaps and jumps or hops. My dance has become more grounded physically. And in that grounding, that's where I can reach into or dig into myself, that brings me up and out. My very first workshop with you years ago, being grounded and allowing the connection to Mother Earth inform us of the heartbeat, of the movement, and that has grown with me. And that's where my dance, has grown, just being more grounded.
And I think also as we move into midlife, we do connect more with the earth. I mean, I think, the crone, if we want to call it that archetype, is very much connected to nature. We've gone through enough, we've birthed children or had experiences, and we are connected to nature and the cycles through that. I think we can be more in our bodies. And I think because our bodies change,
yes,
and maybe it seems limiting, but I also think that it allows us to let go of things. at least for me, it was really about, you know, I don't have to do that anymore. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that, and I don't have to. So let me just let go of that. Where when I was younger, I think I felt I had to do everything, and I had to, you know, I have to try that, and I have to go there, and I have to keep up, and I have to, but
Yeah.
I think you have a certain freedom when you hit midlife. And I think it is, part of it is the example of slowing down and, you know, and just saying, okay, yeah, I don't think I can do that, and being okay with that. Like, maybe I've done enough for today. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do anything else. And then being
Yeah.
okay with that and realizing, hang on, I don't need to do all of that. I don't need to fill my life with all this stuff. I can pick and choose what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to what you said about slowing down and really
Yeah.
making that connection. But we can't do that, especially in Western culture. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so fast and you're bombarded with everything. But maybe at midlife, you begin to give yourself permission to not do that anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, you know, I talked about, you know, where I'm at now. And yet I do think part of it does have to do with the fact that I'm in midlife, in my 50s, because it does come a point where it's like, you know, who cares? You know, if
Exactly.
I don't want to do that, I don't care. You know, this is
But
what I'm doing.
I think you should tell people that, because I've seen what you've done at this point in your life, and it's beautiful. And I think that you should be proud of that, because again, anyone who's grown up with dance thinks that, you know, by the time you hit 29, your career is over.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what you're dancing now is so much, I didn't see you dance when you were 29, but what you're
Mm-hmm.
dancing now is very soulful, and it's a whole,
Mm-hmm.
it takes on a different character. But
Yeah.
that, you know, that age restriction that had been imposed for so long on dancers is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely ridiculous. I think
Mm-hmm.
older women are bringing something different and something more interesting or more soulful, or not that
Mm-hmm.
younger women are not wonderful dancers, but it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different thing. And I think we need all of that.
Yeah. And also, like, going back to the, you know, in my 20s and, you know, working on technique, there was a part of me, and I think a lot of dancers can relate to this, that, or think, if they even think about it, we were hard on our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't like paying attention to really how our body felt. It was just, you had to do this, no matter how sore you were, no matter how hurt you were. It was like, you got to do it, got to get through it, you know. So in that way, we ignore our bodies.
We're
And,
taught to, we're demanded to, in fact,
right. And
which
not, yeah,
is really not very holistic in in the
nope,
bigger picture.
nope. No, and you know, it's funny because I was in corporate for a while, in the corporate world in my 20s, my early and mid 20s. And my dance career reignited in my late 20s. And I, you know, there have been times where I'd be like, oh man, why didn't I do it, you know, when I was earlier? I could have done this, this, this. But I do have to, I stop myself. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't learn, I wouldn't have learned what I have learned now. And
You
there
would have
is
been doing somebody else's dance, not your own
right.
dance.
Well, yeah, I would agree with you, except that I saw myself early on and I was like, I don't know why I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm going to have to do my own choreography because I just can't do this.
I just can't do anybody else's
Yeah,
choreography.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it's been quite a journey. And looking back, you know, I'm currently looking for investors for the show that I'm doing, the HERA Odyssey. And I was talking to a producer who's working on an opera. And in the end, she said, you know what, I'm so over my head with my own project right now. I can't really do much for you. How can I help you? You know, and after telling her a few of my dance stories in life, she's like, you know, all I want to say is you should write your autobiography because you have so many dance stories. And she got me thinking, like, so many of my dance stories are life lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And I have begun to start writing, and I am putting out, I am redoing my website, and things are happening where I'm going to start posting like my dance lessons. And as I write them, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize it back then, but I'm looking back and saying, wow, this is a lesson for me, and I'm going to share it, and whoever, takes what they can from it, great. But I'm going to put it out there because they were lessons that I feel like, wow.
Well, you're the wise
I'm
woman
lucky.
now.
I'm lucky. Yeah, I feel fortunate that I went through this. Going through it back then, forget it. But now, like, wow.
But that's what wisdom is. Wisdom is being able to stand back and process whatever happened to you. You had the experience when you were younger, but wisdom is that point where you realize that it was actually a gift when it may have seemed like something horrible or challenging at the time. So I think that, again, that's another gift of midlife is moving into wisdom.
Definitely. And just saying that brings me to, for me, the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're leading this, but
go with it.
But you said that, so I'm just going with it.
You knew what I was going to say.
Yeah, I felt it.
Yeah.
I think as we get older, there is an importance to ritual, and it's something I'm noticing all over the place. There's this ritual, that ritual, and it's great. We're actually looking to what happened in the past and bringing this forward. I feel, and because it's helpful to us. And the ritual, the dance ritual at our stage of life is actually really important. Even if you don't know how to dance or move, or you can just do one movement. And your course, the Alchemy of Dance, I think is such a beautiful way for people to even start, because you lay out these 4 basic movements. And I've got also other movements too, but I've experimented with those movements, and I've always moved in those ways. That's what the connection with us was like, so unbelievable. But just taking one of those movements and just putting on a piece of music that you like. It doesn't have to be anything that somebody says you have to dance to, or these movements go to certain music. Yes, there is a beat. Yes, that's important to me, to have a beat and to move with the beat and the rhythm. But to put on a piece of music and just stay in one spot and move one of those movements, undulations, working with the elements, I think is such a beautiful way to start a ritual. And you can do it for, 2 minutes in the beginning of your day, 5 minutes, just, and for me, that challenge was staying in one place, because as a dancer, I'm like, all right, I want to go now. Like, we did this for a couple of
seconds. I think that's your air speaking again. And I'm all earth. And for me, standing in one place is like amazing.
Oh, I'm telling you, when I first took your workshop, I was like, really? We're going to stand here and do this movement for like, for the whole song? What about, because, that was not just my training, but my inclination. And also, like, as a choreographer, I'm always I always see pictures in my head, these images of how my body could move, and I want to try it. I want, to the music, but to stand in one place and practice a movement, I think takes discipline, which for me took discipline. But then what I got out of it after, brought up other ways of moving, or for me, other ways of moving, or other ideas, or getting to know who I was. So the ritual really helps, especially at our age, like I said, to tune into ourselves, tune into our body.
So describe a ritual. Like, what would you consider a ritual?
You mean with dance?
Yeah. or how would you
Well,
prepare for that, or
yeah,
what does
for
it look like?
me, right. For me, I mean, because I do it on a regular basis, it's pretty easy for me just to get right into it. But I do light a candle. I do set an intention. Uh, Sometimes I don't feel like moving. And sometimes I don't move. But when I don't, if there's a time when I don't feel like it, but I really know I need it, I kind of say a little bit of a prayer to the goddess and just say, please move me. And I literally can just lay on the floor and just lay there and put music on, and then some movement starts. But if I'm really into like, okay, I'm going to, do my dance ritual, I'm going to give myself this, because it's giving myself something. Because I know what comes out is just something not even expected. But for me, what happens is that I'll start slow, and, I can start just swaying my hips, or, just breathing, just lifting with the breath and then collapsing, and lifting with the breath and collapsing. But then because of the practice, I'm quickly out of my head. I'm not thinking, okay, what movement's going to come next? I've connected to the music. I have my setting in place. I like to, if I'm dancing at night, I like to have dim lights and, candles. I move my furniture if I'm home. If I'm in the studio, it's a different story, because then there's a lot of space. But I quickly these days go into, I can't say a trance, but I go somewhere else. And you can see it on camera. You can see, like, I've had my daughter come to the studio and videotape me if I'm working on a piece. And you can see exactly the moment when I am somewhere else moving, and then I come out, and you can see when I come out of it. It just takes me somewhere else, and I can't even describe it. But that has been a practice for me. That didn't just start happening. I would say in my early days, not being aware of a ritual, I would go somewhere else. I'd be moving, dancing ecstatically, and just just feeling so good afterwards, like a release. Mm-hmm. But these days I'm more conscious of it. And the ritual for me has taken me even further to being connected to myself, to my spirit, to what I'm expressing.
Well, and I think you're focusing the energy in a direction, like with an intention, as you said.
Yes.
If you just go somewhere and dance around, and that's a nice experience and maybe takes you out of your body, but where did that energy go? I think when you create that container, to me, that's what ritual is about, is creating a container for whatever wants to emerge.
Right. I mean, yes, there was one time I remember distinctly, I was really not feeling good mentally, emotionally, and I knew I had to dance. And so I got myself prepared. I was home. I moved my furniture. I did what I had to do, lit my candle, and I didn't even know where to start. And I just stood in the middle of the floor. And what happened, I don't even know where the movement went, but 5 minutes later, I literally was like moving my head in such a way that it was like I was just like shaking my head and just, so fast and furiously. And then I was done. And it was like, wow, something was released. And I felt so much better, obviously. But if you were to tell me I would be doing this with my head, the way I was doing, I would have said, no, but it happened. And it's because I allowed it to happen. I think part of ritual too is the letting go. It's a surrender. It's a surrender to what's happening in that moment, not even thinking, okay, how am I going to move next? What's going to happen? No, just sway, or, you know, breathe, or practice one of your movements, and, you know, just keep practicing it. You know, a ritual is like a habit. It's a good habit in a simplistic, saying it simplistically, because when you're first starting out, you know, it's like you need to actually make the space and, you know, the time to do it every day. It's like exercising, you know, many of us don't like to just exercise. And then, you know, with New Year's coming and the New Year's resolutions coming, you know, how many of us say, okay, I'm going to start an exercise routine? Well, you know, you have to do it religiously, no pun intended, but, you know, you have to do it consistently in order for it to stick. Well, that's ritual too. You need to do it consistently on some level. Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's during the weekends. Maybe it's in the beginning of your day. Maybe it's lunchtime in your office. But I think if you have a few key things that you know, it's going to help you, make you, you know, set the atmosphere. I think there needs to be kind of an atmosphere, and I think setting the intention is part of that atmosphere. You know, does set the atmosphere. You know, what's your intention for today? Is it just simply to feel better? Is it just simply to practice? Is it just simply to you know, breathe easier, or get you through the day, or give you energy? You know, it doesn't matter what the intention is. It could be simply because you just want to move. You know, there's no reason, but to have an intention I think is really important.
And I think the intention focuses the energy. I mean, you could also think about it just as exploring a subject. Like this is the topic, breath.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
my intention is breath, and let me explore that. And,
Yes.
and to me, a big part of ritual is the container, because if we want to surrender, we need to be in a sacred space. We need to allow that to be able to come out safely. And I think also you pointed out, you know, this ritual is like something that you do over and over again. And I think a lot of that has to do with the familiarity of the process. If you do it regularly, it's easier. As you said, now you get into it in a second, you know, you can be there. But in the beginning, I think it is more difficult. It's something unfamiliar. So
yeah, and I was going to say is I think for a lot of women our age, and this is for men too, but, you know, I think this audience could be a lot more women than men, I'm assuming, but that's, you know, I work with more women than men. So just from experience and my own self, when you're starting a dance ritual, and just say you're in your 40s or 50s, let's just say you could be in your 30s and 20s too, but you're at a stage right now where you may not have worked out the kinks with how you feel about your body. You may not like certain parts of your body, you know, that you don't feel comfortable moving. I've met so many women that just moving their hips, they're like, I don't feel comfortable, you know. And I think to practice this on your own, to give yourself a chance to feel what it feels like to move in a certain way, it opens up a lot, you know, especially our, you know, when we're connected to this womb space and our sexuality and our creativity, they're one and the same. If we don't allow ourselves to move in this way, and because you might feel like it's too sexual, or you don't feel comfortable, or you know, you can't go there, then you're actually blocking off your creativity. You can't have one without the other. You can't, you know, your creativity is connected to your sexuality. And, you know, I think, and we're going into like, it's a kind of like on a tangent at this point, but that's something I like to bring into my work too, because as women, you know, we have this form, you know, we have curves, and we want to honor that. And I find a lot of women, even, you know, in their 40s and 50s, haven't come to the place of feeling comfortable with their bodies. So I think a simple dance ritual to move in these ways, you know. And like I said, your course is such a great place to start, and practice movements and get into a ritual for yourself to feel more comfortable in your body, so you can be expressed, you know, sexually and creatively. And I don't mean to be out, you know, to be showing your sexuality in a way that, you know,
but to use that sexual energy, that creative, I like to call it primordial energy, because I think that makes it not directed in any specific direction. But I think also, you know, you're talking about the body and people maybe not embracing their body, but to allow the dance to explore why being built the way you are maybe is a good thing. What can you do with that? If you have hips, well, what can I do with that? How maybe was that a good thing? Not a mistake.
Right.
Not some curse, but maybe it was a really good thing. And how could that be a good thing? And to really, begin to feel your body from the inside. And again, going back to that concept of a container, if you're in a sacred space, you have the freedom to explore that. Nobody's watching you, nobody's judging you, and you just see where it takes you.
That's the point, because if you can practice in a dance ritual with an intention and the container set the way you feel comfortable for yourself, you will discover things about yourself that you really didn't know before, or reconnect to things you have but just weren't connected to before. And that will just only, I don't know, I think there's so much more to discover, and you will discover, and then you will feel more comfortable in your body. I mean, this is where it starts. This is the foundation, you know, for us, our bodies.
Taking us back to children know that. Children are their body. They're not their mind. They put everything in their mouth because they need to taste everything or touch everything or break everything to figure out how it was made or whatever. So I think, you know, when you said that when you hit midlife, it was like going back to being a child. I think that's because children are connected to their bodies. And finally, we get back to that place of not being all up in our heads and maybe getting back to where we started.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I feel like a lot of what I'm saying, I know you understand me, but a lot of what I'm saying, I hope that the listener understands that it sounds so simple, really, like it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but do it, do the ritual, do the practice, and see what happens.
And that's the ritual part of it, is to actually do it and to embody it and to see where it takes you.
Yeah, and then to add another flavor to it, and then move with beauty, add that element to it. Or, you know, again, there's an intention too that's set, but see what happens when you add moving with beauty, you know, see what happens. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? You know, and did that change the quality of your movement? And did you like it? You know, maybe if you're watching yourself in the mirror, like, ooh, I didn't know I can do that. I didn't know I can look like that. You know,
I am beautiful. Yeah.
You know, a lot of things can open up, you know. So, and like I said, this is all, I'm still learning. I'm still, you know, I haven't gotten it 100%. I'm moving through this.
We never will. It's infinite. And I think that's the other point, is to realize that you never will, and you're not supposed to. You know, to me, when you know it all, that's when you die. There's no reason to be here anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say,
keep exploring.
But I will say this, I've gotten to a place, because it does, for me, it happens so quickly when I'm dancing, that I literally have said to, like, you know, my ex-husband, when we were married, we'd go to events and I would say, okay, don't, you know, stop me from dancing if I start dancing, because I can go nuts. And he'd say to me, why? Everyone likes watching you, you know, like he would say, and I would say, yeah, but some people think I'm just crazy or drunk or, you know, something. And it took my family, my own family, a while, because we would go to weddings and parties, and I could be dancing in really high heels and just do things that I can't even believe I'd be standing. And I don't know, they would look at me like really strange, like, oh my goodness. But I had to say to myself, maybe these public places are not the place to go that crazy. So that's why I kind of hold back when I'm in in a public place, because I can go so, out there and sexual, and I can look very sexual too. And not because I'm trying to show off or be sexual. It's just because that's how my body moves. I like that. I like moving in these ways. I will never forget, I was in my 20s and I was doing a choreographer's showcase. It was my first showcase as a choreographer. And the song I chose was, I can't remember now. Now it's escaping me. But anyway, it was an old jazz piece, and it was sensual. The music itself was sensual. And but I was taking it so seriously, and I really wanted it to be this serious modern jazz type piece. And anyway, after my first night's performance, one of my girlfriends had shown up, and afterwards she said, "Oh my God, that was so beautiful." She said, and beautiful, yes, that was a word used. And she said, "But I have to tell you," she said, "your piece was the most sexual piece." And I said, "What?" I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, it was like you just, there was this sexuality that you were moving, and nobody else's piece was like that. Everybody was like modern dance, modern." And I'm like, I felt so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Well, after that, the person who was leading the workshop for the choreographers, she wrote each of us a little note. And in my note, she wrote, "Trust your instincts. Go with your instincts." Because I was like, she knew I felt embarrassed. And she said, "No, this is your talent. Just keep going with it." That took me a while to embrace it too, because I move in certain ways that I need to. And I'm not saying I'm twerking, you know what I mean? I'm not doing that kind of stuff. It's a way I express myself that I have to honor. And I would encourage, women, men in their own space to let themselves move in certain ways. And that takes a little practice too, to feel comfortable moving and moving your hips and just,
But explore your
exploring.
body.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's touch on one other subject. Can you tell us a little bit about the HERA journey? This is what
the HERA Odyssey.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so, the HERA Odyssey has grown, because when I first got this idea, it was a bolt of inspiration. I say divine. It was divinely inspired. I was actually in the middle of an ecstatic dance in my home. I was newly separated and having a difficult time with the situation. And I hadn't danced for a while, for a good 6 months. And this one night, my kids were out, and I made space to dance. I just felt like, okay, I need to move. And after 2 hours, all of a sudden I get this idea for the show. And it does have to do with women. I've been working with women for all these years. It didn't come about because of any movement or anything like that. This idea came back in 2009, 2010. And I'm using dance history and the story of women, put it together, and telling this story through dance. It's a dance play. And what a journey this has been. After performing one of the pieces, which used to be called Dance of the Goddess, somebody came to me just randomly and said, you need to write a script. And I said, because I had said, this is part of a show. I just knew it was part of a show, but I hadn't really thought it out. And when this person said that to me, I said, well, it's not, there is no dialogue. Why would I write a script, you know? And she said, oh, you're going to need a script to sell the show to investors. So I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Anyway, I spent then a year and a half sitting writing a script, you know, fine tuning, editing, da, 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 da. I so often would say, why am I sitting here writing a script when I should be dancing, when I should be moving? But the story was there and it just flowed. It has even grown since, you know, since I first wrote the script. Now I'm at a place where I really, even the title changed, you know, things had changed. Now the word HERA, the name HERA, when I first thought of HERA, it brings to mind, you know, the god Zeus, his wife HERA, but that's not this HERA. HERA comes from, I was watching a documentary one day on TV about ancient Greece. And when I was in 5th and 6th grades, when our teachers would take us to the library to pick a library book, everybody else was picking these, you know, novels and things appropriate for our age or whatever. And I would always go right to the big, fat Greek anthologies and love reading about Greek mythology. I was just, oh my God. So watching this documentary about ancient Greece, of course, the gods are brought up, but they spoke about the word eros and how the word hero comes from eros, meaning he who is worthy. And I'm like, well, hero is he who is worthy. And we all know the hero's journey. So I'm like, okay, well, there's HERA and she who is worthy. That's where HERA came from. But then if you Google HERA, there's actually a write-up that takes you way back thousands of years. Like, she is not necessarily a person, but like just a concept of women, of you know, goddess, or, you know, just a woman. And so that sort of got me on the, you know, then the HERA Odyssey became like the thing. So, but I'm very excited because I'm showcasing pieces little by little until I find the right person for investing, or, you know, as we know, producing anything costs money.
Yeah.
So, you know, things are happening little by little. I am finding, you know, this has always been my dance journey. I'm not in the norm. I'm not doing something that everybody else is doing. And for the first time, I'm embracing that too. It's not easy, but it's like, okay, you know, when Maternal Dance was born, nobody heard of prenatal dance. It's like, what? Pregnant women dancing? And, but I just did it because I knew I had to do it. And I love how you had written something about, like, that was my birthing. Maternal dance was my birthing.
Yeah.
And I think the HERA Odyssey is the, you know, it's the maturing,
Mm-hmm.
and the, you know, and beyond. But beyond that.
And it's beautiful. The pieces I've seen.
Thank you.
It's coming together.
Yeah,
piece by piece.
I've gotten great feedback. Great feedback. So I'm happy, you know. I've been performing in the pieces. I love performing, but I kind of, at this stage, I would really like to just choreograph it and maybe, you know, dance here or there. But, and by the way, I am looking for dancers. So if anybody out there in New York, if you're in New York City, I'm looking for, you know, I need well-trained dancers who are versatile, because we're working with a number of different dance styles, because I'm taking dance history and I'm telling the story with dance history, you know. So I can't really say too much more than that, but
we'll wait till it comes out, and then we'll all see it. Yeah. Good.
Or even just excerpts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for asking.
So tell us a little bit about your offer, what you're offering up for this summit.
So Yeah, it was kind of serendipitous actually, because when you had asked me to be a part of this summit, I think it was just after I broke 3 ribs dancing. And I began to work. I thought, well, what can I do? I can't dance. At this moment I need to, but I wanted to do something while I was resting, and I wanted to, I don't know, just, I had this inspiration. And so I began looking at all my dance photos and thought, yeah, I'll do a dance calendar. Cause I had always wanted to do that. It's been something I actually did a few dance calendars just for my parents for Christmas, a Christmas present. And this year I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a dance calendar and maybe print it out and, see if anyone wants to buy it. And that became actually a project that I'm happy to say came out so nice. I have dance quotes by famous choreographers, old and new, some people who are not dancers at all. But I'm using my dance photos to present, I think, something that's beautiful. And it's a little desk calendar. So my free offer is a PDF of the full dance calendar. So you can actually download it and you can use the calendar on your desktop, or just have it, so you can look at the dates and the quotes. And I think they all pertain to life, the quotes. And
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
so take advantage of that and download it.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful gift.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm happy with the way it turned out. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. Thank you for speaking to us today, and thank you to all the listeners for being here with us. And we'll look forward to hearing more about your journey in the future. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Leslie, for having me. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.